Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Jun-sok, professor of economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Yang, good to have you back on.
Happy to be here.
Well, stocks in New York were higher last night. Data coming out on the U.S. and Chinese economies. Korean stocks today were down, then up, then down again. What's the story in the markets?
Okay, well, for the U.S. market, after a fairly bad couple of weeks, this week, Monday and Tuesday, they seem to be recovering. The recovery is led by the tech stocks, which was responsible for the fall a couple of weeks ago. But it hasn't really been a very dynamic recovery. Dow is somewhat level. It is not rising very much. It's not falling very much. S&P and NASDAQ are rising. But I think the market basically is waiting for what the Fed has to say at the end of the week. They're going to have a summary of economic projections. They're also going to give some indications on what the near future monetary policy is going to be like. They already stated that they will maintain low interest rate for an extended period of time, but I think the market is looking for how much additional liquidity the Fed is willing to put into the market. That's going to affect the stock market in the short term and the medium term, and it may quite possibly lead to even more difference between what's happening in the real economy and what's happening in the stock market. But I think basically the U.S. stock market, as well as other global stock market, is basically taking a wait-and-see attitude. That's reflected somewhat in the European stocks. Some indices like Euro 50 and FTSE is up for the week. The DAX and CAC are basically level, though all these indices happen to be down today. They just started trading and they started lower. Nikkei was down yesterday, but it's recovered today a little bit. Shanghai was up on Monday and Tuesday, but it went down a little bit. And that's similar to what's happening in Kospi and Kosdaq. Went up on Monday and Tuesday, it went down today. For today, individuals bought and institutions sold. Institutions selling is a bit unusual, but again, it seems to be reflecting what's the wait-and-see attitude, though the good economic performance from China may have helped the market a little bit. Yesterday and before yesterday, China's industrial production was up 5.6%, which was higher than expected, and retail sales were also up 0.5%.
Now, today we have news. Japan has a new Prime Minister, Yoshihide Suga. He's going to continue with the policies of Shinzo Abe or go even further in that direction. What economic policies do you see coming under the Suga administration?
Okay, well, unlike Abe or unlike some of the competitors that Yoshihide Suga had for the prime ministership, he does not have a faction of his own. So he's going to have to depend on the Abe faction to continue to back him, which means that he'll continue the Abenomics as well as Abe's foreign policy, most likely. His motto, at least until the next election, is going to be "Don't rock the boat." So that means continuing easy money policy with cooperation from the Bank of Korea, and that will also help the current the high-valued yen, the United States, because they have promised easy money, low interest rate. The dollar is depreciating in value, which means that Japanese yen is appreciating in value. So continuing easy money policy will hopefully get the yen depreciating. Fiscal policy, it's questionable what position Suga will take. He has presented a support for increasing consumption tax in the past, but recently he has been going back from that position. But it is known that he cares more about government budget, government surplus than Abe was. And then in terms of structural reforms, he seems to be a stronger free market believer than Abe was. And there has been some signals that he may deal with regional banks because there are too many regional banks in Japan. He may lower corporate taxes further, and there are some signals that he may deal with Social Security and labor law reform in those areas. But I don't think he's going to do any type of major reforms, at least not until the next election, general election takes place.
Well, we're almost out of time, Professor, but before we go, what about relations with South Korea?
Well, Suga has, while in the old days he was somewhat pro-Korean, recently he has taken the same position as Abe. So if Korea does go ahead and sell off the confiscated assets from Japanese steel companies, we can expect a strong response, and we could expect continuing standoff, continuing stalemate if the situation stays as is currently.
All right, we'll have to leave it there for today. Professor, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.